Hi guys, Sci-Fi Recapped here. Today I am going to explain the film called Polina. Spoilers ahead, watch out and stay safe. The movie begins in a film studio where a woman named Polina and her co-actor are shooting a scene for a movie. Afterwards, her daughter Nina appears wearing a movie costume. Then, the two go for a walk where Polina says that there are different movie studios, and each one has a different world inside of it. It's revealed that the movie sets and studios were built by Polina's parents, which now belong to Polina, and will one day be passed down to Nina. Polina shows Nina Studio One and says that this is where her life completely changed. She then begins to narrate her story from when she was a kid, and the events which happened just a day before her 12th birthday. The scene cuts into the past where an 11-year-old Polina is seen living with her aunt Varvara and cousin Dylan. It turns out that Varvara didn't treat Polina well, and used to keep her locked up in her small room despite having a huge mansion. It's also revealed that at the time Polina didn't have any recollection of her parents' faces, and in addition Varvara didn't answer any of her questions about them. One day, Dylan enters her room and gives her a mysterious box before leaving. Curious to see what is inside, she opens the box and finds film studio documents and a torn picture of a man. Polina immediately suspects the man in the photo to be her father, but isn't sure. All of a sudden, Aunt Varvara arrives there and interrogates her on where she found the box. However, Polina lies and says that she found the box while snooping around in Dylan's room. She then asks Varvara if the man in the photo is her father, to which she claims that her parents are dead. After a while, Varvara calls Dylan in the room where he throws the box in the fireplace. The two then exit the room and lock Polina inside. Fortunately, she manages to retrieve the torn photo and some additional film studio documents before they burn. The scene then cuts to a man who is set free from jail. It's revealed that the man is called Anton, who is actually Polina's father. However, Anton is reminded by a judge that he is on parole for the rest of his life, and is also not able to see or visit his daughter. Meanwhile, Polina eavesdrops on Varvara and Dylan's conversation where she learns that they are going to poison her. They don't want Polina to learn the truth about her parents as she gets older. So, determined to escape, she successfully unlocks herself and manages to escape the mansion. Meanwhile, Aunt Varvara and Dylan poison Polina's cake and take it to her room, where they find out that she has escaped. They then figure out she has gone to the movie studios, so Varvara orders Dylan to fetch Polina either dead or alive. The scene cuts to Polina arriving at the film studio where she sees many other kids. She finds out that the kids are there for a film workshop and decides to blend in with them to be able to enter the studio. Varvara then rings the movie studio manager, Saul, and orders him to search for Polina. Wasting no time, Saul rushes and informs the security guards of the matter. A while later, as Polina enjoys a play from the other children, Saul finds and chases after her. Polina manages to lose him but is again chased by Dylan, who has arrived. She hurriedly enters Studio One and loses Dylan off her tail. Inside, she witnesses a holographic man calling her, who surprisingly knows her name. The man begins to explain that he is from one side of a silver screen and Polina is from the other side. He then tells her that if she finds all the missing pieces of the photo, then the complete picture will tell Polina the truth about her parents. He also reveals that she has until midnight to complete the task, and failure in doing so will result in Polina getting stuck on the other side of the silver screen forever. So, eager to learn the truth, Polina decides to go and find the lost pieces of the photo. She hurriedly opens one of the studio doors, which reveals a completely different world. On entering, it looks like a war zone as rubble, fire, and broken vehicles surround her. She soon approaches a broken down tank and knocks to see if anyone is inside. To her surprise, she finds a boy named Sasha who orders her to go away. Polina, however, doesn't listen to him, and soon, a tank slowly rolls up towards them. Polina quickly scurries to a nearby hiding spot, whereas Sasha gets out of his vehicle and surrenders before being apprehended by the soldiers. After they leave, Polina heads inside Sasha's vehicle and luckily finds the second part of the photo. She is shocked to see a little girl's picture on it and recognizes it as herself. So, she heads to where the soldiers are keeping Sasha captive, and while they are distracted, she asks him where he got the photo. He informs Polina that he was given the photo by Cleopatra. Polina wants more information, so she frees Sasha and decides to go with him to find Cleopatra. However, as they run, the two get separated and Polina finds herself outside the studio back in her normal world. Unfortunately, she is not able to catch her breath as Dylan finds her and chases her once again. With nowhere to run to, she rushes inside Studio 3, barely escaping from Dylan. Inside the studio, she finds herself in a music school where Saul is now in the form of the principal. He then escorts her to a music class thinking that she is a new student. The music teacher, however, seems to be very grumpy and cruel to the students, as she even has a section of the class made to look like a jail cell for punishing them. The teacher then orders a boy named Cleo to play the piano, and he plays it beautifully. Shortly after, Saul hears the beautiful melody that Cleo is playing and enters the class. He blames the class teacher that she has only been mean and cruel, and hasn't found out the true potential of her students. So, he locks the teacher inside the jail cell while the other children go out for recess except Paulina and Cleo. In the next scene, Paulina confronts Cleo and asks him if he is Cleopatra. Hearing this, he finally reveals himself in his true Egyptian clothing and confirms his identity. Paulina then shows the photo to him and finds out that he had traded the other part of the photo for his clothing with a person called Boom Boom. Paulina still needs the last piece of the photo and asks Cleopatra to help her. Despite him being scared of Boom Boom, Paulina manages to convince him to help. Meanwhile, Anton visits Varvara's mansion and demands to see his daughter. Varvara informs him that she has escaped but doesn't tell him where she has gone. However, Anton manages to find out where she is after he punches and asks the family driver, Edward. Meanwhile, Paulina and Cleopatra walk into Studio 4 where they reach a gymnasium and meet a girl. When Paulina asks her about the pictures, she informs them that she gave the pictures to the big guy in the gym. The little girl then confronts the huge bulky guy and asks for the photo, to which he proposes that she should fight for it. So, she and the big guy enter the ring where the little girl dominates the fight. She is quick and small, enabling her to dodge punches and land a significant amount of shots. But suddenly, the big guy lands a huge punch on her, sending her flying, at which point Cleopatra and Paulina decide to help. The big guy still overpowers the two, but in the nick of time, Sasha materializes through the wall and comes to the rescue. He then jumps on top of the big guy, covering his face and eyes. After this, the three use the ropes of the ring to tie the big guy's feet while the girl lands the final blow, knocking him out. Once he awakens, Paulina asks for the picture. However, after getting the picture of her mother, she realizes that one piece is still missing to complete the photo. All of a sudden, the big guy starts crying, and Paulina thinks that he knows something about the last piece. So, they enter a hospital behind another studio door where they encounter Edward, who is a mad scientist. He orders a nurse to take Cleopatra to experiment on him while the others watch over the big guy. It has been a while, but the big guy continues to cry. As he is a mute, he writes on a piece of paper that he misses his girlfriend, who is revealed to be a king's daughter. Hearing this, the children promise to find his girlfriend, but only if he helps them rescue Cleopatra. Meanwhile, Edward's plan to electrocute Cleo backfires, and he ends up electrocuting himself. Shortly after, the kids reach the room where Cleopatra is held and successfully rescue him. Afterwards, they find a girl inside a room who seems to be friends with the big guy. It's then revealed that the two are from the Viking studio, and that they were sent by the princess to find a potion for the king who is poisoned by the new evil king's wife. So to escape the hospital, the big guy dresses up as a doctor and places the kids in a cart. He then manages to get through all the guards. In the meantime, Varvara tells Saul that he must find Anton and Paulina as soon as possible, because if the two come to know the truth, both Saul and she will end up in prison. Elsewhere, Paulina runs out of the studio with her friends, but they disappear instantly. All of a sudden, Dylan starts chasing her, prompting her to hide in a closet inside a warehouse. Dylan then searches for Paulina and eventually finds her, but he is stopped by Anton, who arrives just in time. He buys Paulina some time before getting knocked by Dylan. She escapes from the warehouse and enters Studio 6, where she finds a chemistry lab and all her friends. It turns out that the little girl has turned into a teapot after drinking a weird potion. Soon after, they find a scientist and ask him to cure their friend. The latter experiments a little bit and accidentally turns Sasha into a frog. Afterwards, Cleo tries to make his own cure, which surprisingly works for both Sasha and the little girl, making them human again. Paulina then wants to see if the potion can restore the missing piece of the photo. Surprisingly, the plan works. The photo comes out and reveals a woman holding a newborn baby. This confuses Paulina, and when she exits the studio, she again finds Dylan waiting for her. Hence, she begins to run through a forest while Anton wakes up and runs after Dylan. In the next scene, Paulina stumbles across Studio 7 and enters through a door that disappears after she closes it. This makes Dylan confused, and all of a sudden, Anton hits him from behind. He wins the fight while Paulina finds herself in the Viking studio. Moments later, it's revealed that the guards have caught the big guy, and so they restrain him on a podium. Meanwhile, the new king and queen mock the princess, who looks at the big guy. The queen then demands a child for her dinner, so the guards pick Cleopatra and bring him to the queen. Meanwhile, Paulina finds Sasha in a cage, who advises her to free the big guy and help the princess. So, Paulina frees the big man, who rescues the princess from the guards. It turns out the king is in serious condition and is in a shed. Paulina gives him the potion, and surprisingly, the king becomes well in an instant. The princess then tells her father that he was poisoned by the queen. Moments later, the queen comes to the house and pretends to be happy to see him alive. However, the king doesn't pay any attention to her and heads to regain the throne. This, however, doesn't sit right with the evil king, so he blows a magic horn which unleashes a monster called Drager. In order to fend off Drager, the big man drinks a potion to get stronger and begins to fight him one-on-one. At first, the big man lands many blows on Drager, but the evil king keeps on healing the monster by continuously sounding the horn. So, the little girl approaches the evil king and punches him in the face, which causes him to drop the magic horn. This enables the big guy to easily defeat Drager as he is not able to heal anymore. Suddenly, after the big guy's victory, the evil king stabs him from behind and runs away. With time running out, the kids immediately spring into action and save the big guy using the potion. This elates the princess, so she decides to give Paulina and Cleopatra a surprise. The two board a boat at night where they finally meet Paulina's mother. She reveals that Cleo is actually Paulina's brother and that he died with her during a fire long ago. It turns out that 8 years ago, a fire destroyed the film studio which took her mother and Cleo's life, and for that Anton was wrongly blamed. So the mother requests Paulina to return to the real world to stop Aunt Varvara's plan to sell the studio. Afterwards, Paulina and Cleo exit the Viking studio from a movie screen and meet a group of friends. She is then reunited with her father, but shortly after, Varvara arrives inside the studio with the police. The police attempt to arrest Anton, but all of a sudden, the hologram appears out of thin air and plays a video on the movie screen. The video shows Varvara asking Paulina's mother to sell the movie studio, as it was not generating enough money. Paulina's mother, however, disagrees, as her parents worked very hard to build it. It is then revealed that it was actually Varvara who was responsible for the fire in the film studio, which takes the life of Paulina's mother and Cleo. The video also shows Anton saving Paulina from the fire before getting blamed for everything. Seeing this, the police start chasing Varvara, Dylan, and her other accomplices throughout the studio. They soon reach an empty warehouse and strangely begin eating the poisoned cake which was originally meant for Paulina. Meanwhile, Paulina, Anton, and her other friends celebrate her 12th birthday. The scene cuts into the present where Paulina's daughter Nina makes her way into Studio One to start her own adventure just like young Paulina did. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn on the notifications so you won't miss any of our new videos.